Single
Will you
dad
marry me?
accidentally proposed to his
Yes,
best
of course,
friend.
yes.
I love
Her
you.
answer
I love
broke
you
every
too.
wall around his heart. The ring box fell from Mark's jacket pocket in slow motion, tumbling through the air before landing at Sarah's feet with a soft thud. The lid popped open, revealing the diamond ring he'd been saving for the right moment, a moment that wasn't supposed to be now, in his kitchen, with pancake batter dripping from the ceiling. As their eyes met, 20 years of friendship hung in the balance. What happened next would change everything. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us all that love often finds us when we least expect it. Mark Sullivan hadn't planned on falling in love again. Not after Emily died giving birth to their daughter Lily. For 8 years, he'd been both mother and father to his little girl, navigating the treacherous waters of single parenthood with only one constant support, his best friend Sarah Chen. Sarah had been there through everything. The midnight fevers. The first day of kindergarten. The time Lily decided to give herself a haircut the night before school pictures. She was the emergency contact on all the forms, the person who remembered to buy birthday presents when Mark forgot, the one who showed up with soup when either of them got sick. "Uncle Mark, you're burning the pancakes again," Lily called out, her 8-year-old voice carrying across their small kitchen on a Sunday morning like any other. Except it wasn't like any other. "Shoot!" Mark lunged for the smoking pan, accidentally knocking over the bowl of batter in the process. The ceramic bowl shattered against the tile floor, sending pancake mix everywhere, including the ceiling. That's when Sarah walked in, using her spare key as she always did on Sunday mornings. "Looks like I arrived just in time for the disaster portion of breakfast," she laughed, already reaching for the paper towels. "Aunt Sarah." Lily launched herself into Sarah's arms, pancake batter and all. "Careful, Munchkin, you're covered in goop," Sarah said, but hugged her anyway, not caring about the mess transferring to her clothes. Mark watched them, something tightening in his chest. Sarah's dark hair was pulled back in her usual messy bun, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore no makeup, just her glasses and that faded MIT sweatshirt she'd had since college. She'd never looked more beautiful to him. The realization had been creeping up on him for months now. Maybe years. The way his heart jumped when she texted. How he saved funny stories just to tell her. The emptiness of the house after she left. Earth to Mark, Sarah waved her hand in front of his face. "Want to help clean up, or are you just going to stand there looking stunned?" He snapped back to reality. "Sorry, just thinking about stuff." "Dangerous pastime," she teased, handing him a roll of paper towels. They worked in comfortable silence, cleaning up the mess while Lily chattered about her science project. Mark kept stealing glances at Sarah, wondering when his best friend had become the person he couldn't imagine living without, not just as a friend, but as something more. He'd bought the ring 3 weeks ago. Not for Sarah, or at least, that's what he'd told himself. It was his mother's ring, the one she'd left him before she passed. He'd had it resized and cleaned, telling himself it was just for safekeeping, for someday, for someone. He carried it with him because, well, he didn't have a good reason. It just felt right having it close. As Mark reached up to wipe batter from the ceiling, the small velvet box slipped from his jacket pocket. It fell in what felt like slow motion, bouncing once on the tile before landing directly at Sarah's feet. The lid popped open. The diamond caught the morning sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. Everything stopped. Sarah stared at the ring. Mark stared at Sarah. Lily looked between them, her young face scrunched in confusion. "Mark?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "I can explain," he started, but couldn't find the words to continue. How could he explain something he barely understood himself? Sarah knelt down, picking up the box with trembling fingers. "Were you planning to propose to someone?" The question hung in the air between them. Mark felt his heart hammering against his ribs. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. He hadn't even admitted to himself what he was feeling, let alone prepared to tell her. "Daddy, are you going to marry Aunt Sarah?" Lily asked, her voice filled with hope and excitement. Mark looked at his daughter, then back at Sarah, who was still holding the ring box, her expression unreadable behind her glasses. He began, then stopped. 20 years of friendship flashed before his eyes. College study sessions. Her supporting him through his whirlwind romance with Emily. Her tears at their wedding. Her steady presence after Emily's death. 1,000 movie nights and inside jokes and quiet moments. And suddenly, he knew. He knew with absolute certainty. "Yes," he said, the word coming out stronger than he expected. "Yes, I was planning to propose. To you, Sarah. Not today, not like this, but, yes." Sarah's eyes widened. "Mark, what are you saying?" He took a deep breath and stepped forward, taking the ring box from her hands. Then, pancake batter still in his hair, he dropped to one knee on the messy kitchen floor. "I didn't plan this. I didn't even admit to myself what I was feeling. But I've been carrying this ring around for weeks because somehow, my heart knew before my head did." His voice cracked. "Sarah Chen, you've been my best friend for 20 years. You've been family to Lily. You've been my rock, my sanity, my favorite person to talk to at the end of every day. And I think I've been in love with you for years without realizing it." Sarah's hand covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. "I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't know if I'm ruining the best friendship I've ever had. But I do know that I love you, not just as my friend, but as the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. Will you marry me?" The silence that followed felt eternal. Mark could hear his own heartbeat, feel the weight of what he'd just done crashing down on him. He'd risked everything, their friendship, the stability Lily needed, the comfortable routine they'd built. Sarah removed her glasses, wiping tears from her eyes. "You idiot," she whispered. Mark's heart sank. But then she was kneeling in front of him, their faces inches apart. "You absolute idiot," she repeated, but she was smiling through her tears. "I've been in love with you since our sophomore year of college." "What?" Mark couldn't process her words. "But you helped plan my wedding to Emily." "Because I loved you enough to want you to be happy," she said simply. "And after she died, you needed a friend, not someone with complicated feelings. So I buried them. I decided being in your life as a friend was better than not being in it at all. Aunt Sarah, are you going to marry my dad or not?" Lily interrupted, her patience clearly wearing thin. Sarah laughed, the sound like music to Mark's ears. She looked at Lily, then back at Mark, her eyes shining with 2 decades of unspoken love. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry your dad." Mark slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. It fit perfectly, as if it had always been meant for her. And when he stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her for the first time after 20 years of friendship, it felt like coming home. Lily cheered and threw her arms around both of them, creating a family embrace that felt both brand new and as familiar as breathing. "I can't believe it took pancake batter and an accidental proposal for us to figure this out," Sarah murmured against his lips. "Some of us are slower than others," Mark admitted, pressing his forehead to hers. The walls he'd built around his heart after Emily died, the ones he'd constructed to protect himself and Lily from more pain, crumbled completely under the weight of Sarah's yes. For the first time in 8 years, he felt whole again. But their story was just beginning. The months that followed brought challenges neither had anticipated. Mark's in-laws struggled with the idea of their daughter's best friend replacing her. Lily, despite her initial excitement, sometimes acted out as she adjusted to the changing dynamic. And Mark and Sarah themselves had to navigate the transition from friends to lovers, learning each other in entirely new ways. There was the night Mark found Sarah crying in the bathroom, overwhelmed by the responsibility of becoming a stepmother. "What if I'm not enough for her?" she'd asked. "What if I can't be what Lily needs?" "You've already been what she needs for 8 years," Mark had assured her, holding her close. "You're not replacing Emily. You're just continuing to be the amazing Aunt Sarah she already loves, with a slightly different title." Then there was the day Lily came home from school refusing to talk to either of them, slamming her bedroom door and staying there for hours. When Sarah finally coaxed her out, Lily admitted through tears that a classmate had told her she was betraying her real mom by being happy about the wedding. Sarah had sat with her on the bed, holding the little girl's hands. "Your mom will always be your mom, Lily. Nothing can ever change that. And you know what? I think she'd be really happy knowing that you and your dad aren't alone. That you have someone who loves you both so much." "How do you know?" Lily had asked, her voice small. "Because I knew your mom. And she had the biggest heart of anyone I've ever met. That's why your dad loved her so much. That's why I loved her too." The wedding was small, just family and close friends gathered in Mark's backyard on a perfect autumn day. Lily served as both flower girl and ring bearer, proudly walking down the makeshift aisle in a dress she'd helped design. When it came time for vows, Mark took Sarah's hands in his and spoke from his heart. 20 years ago, I met a brilliant, stubborn girl in Calculus 101 who refused to let me copy her homework. Instead, she taught me how to solve the problems myself. And that's what you've been doing ever since, not solving my problems for me, but standing beside me while I figure them out. Loving me through the process. Loving Lily through everything." He took a shaky breath. "I never expected to find love twice in one lifetime. I thought that kind of luck wasn't in the cards for me. But now I realize it wasn't luck at all, it was you, choosing to stay, day after day, year after year. Today, I'm finally choosing you back, promising to love you for the rest of our lives with the same steadfastness you've always shown us." Sarah's vows were equally moving. "Mark, I've loved you in so many ways over the years. As a friend, as family, and now as the man I'm choosing to build a life with. I promise to continue being your best friend, to laugh at your terrible jokes, to call you out when you need it, and to love you through whatever comes next." She turned to Lily then. "And Lily, I promise to always honor the memory of your mom, to never try to take her place, but to love you with my whole heart as we create our own special bond. The three of us are building something new together, and I couldn't be more grateful to be part of it." There wasn't a dry eye in the gathering as they exchanged rings and were pronounced husband and wife. As Mark kissed his bride, Lily squeezed between them for a group hug, creating a moment that perfectly captured their journey, not a traditional love story, but one uniquely their own. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep and they were alone for the first time as husband and wife, Sarah traced the lines of Mark's face in the darkness. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that ring hadn't fallen out of your pocket that day?" she asked. Mark considered the question. "I think we would have found our way here eventually. Maybe not as dramatically, but I was already falling for you. The ring just accelerated the timeline." 20 years is hardly accelerated," Sarah laughed softly. "Some love stories take time," he replied, pulling her closer. "And some best friends accidentally propose in kitchens covered in pancake batter." "I wouldn't change a thing," she whispered against his lips. As they drifted off to sleep, Mark reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The accidental proposal had broken every wall around his heart, but what Sarah had given him was so much more than romance. She'd given him and Lily the chance to be whole again, to build something new without forgetting what came before. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone new, but about seeing someone who's been there all along in a completely different light. And sometimes, the family you need has been waiting patiently for you to realize they've been family all along. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that love often arrives in unexpected packages, and that second chances at happiness are sometimes standing right beside us, just waiting to be recognized.